Hello and welcome back to my channel. It has been a little while since I've recorded anything. We just got back from vacation and I'm severely behind on videos as per usual. But we're going to start getting us back on track with my spring TBR. If you don't know what I'm talking about, basically this is a giant TBR that is going to have the books that I want to prioritize in spring. I'm not necessarily going to read all of these because I will still be doing my monthly TBR, and obviously those are based on prompts and what I can and cannot fit on them, but these are the ones that I would like to prioritize on. I did do a winter TBR. If you want to see that, I will link it down below. Basically that one really just had the theme of wintry books / books that I really wanted to read in the moment. Obviously I didn't get to all of them. Some of them will be rolling over into spring because there's a little bit of a theme with this one, and that is series spring. Series are something that I really want to prioritize in 2025. It is a huge goal of mine to complete some series. Within this TBR though, it's not just continuations and completions. We do have some first in a series because obviously I can't complete series if I don't start the ones that are also on my shelves. I do have quite a lot here, so let's jump into it. I don't know if I'm going to be going into full details on these synopsis or just vague ones as my TBRs usually are. So let's start with the first in a series, and that is The Goblin Emperor. I don't remember if I put this on my winter TBR, but this is one that ever since I saw it, I've been really intrigued by. Basically, we follow this young goblin who's not supposed to be in line for the throne. Well, he's in line for the throne, but he's like way down the line. And then something happens where his father and his 3 brothers end up dead. And it's ruled as an accident, but he starts to get into these series of events that make him question whether or not it truly was and if his life is in danger. I am so excited by this. I really was intrigued by the cover. I've since found that there were covers that I actually like a lot more, but you know what, whatever, this is fine. We own this one, and I'm really intrigued. I haven't heard a ton about it, but I really want to read it. And for some reason, goblin is one of my buzzwords. This next one is the end of a long loved series. It's a series that I really love and need to complete. And that is Dreams of Gods and Monsters. This is the 3rd in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone, technically trilogy, but there are 4 books if you include the novella of Susanna and Mick. Again, I really love the first 2 books. I didn't love the second book as much as the first one, but something happened at the end of the second book that really made me want to continue and complete this series. I just have to. Amari and the Great Game, which I really wanted to try to read in February, but with the amount of time that I have left, I'm unfortunately not going to be able to do that. But this series follows Amari, whose brother has gone missing, and she knows nothing, her mother knows nothing, the police aren't taking it seriously, and one day she discovers that there's this supernatural world and her brother was a part of it. Well, not really a supernatural world, but this supernatural side of the world, and her brother was kind of a part of it, and she thinks it might have something to do with why he went missing, so she decides to go and investigate it. And I loved the first book so much. I have since tried reading this one. For some reason I put it down because I'm a serial popcorn reader who never finishes books. This one is rolling over from winter, and that is How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying. I actually don't know if this is the first in the series, but right here it does say 1. So I'm assuming there's supposed to be more in this, and I do really want to read this book. I just have not had a chance to prioritize it. But this basically follows Davi, who is sick of dying to the Dark Lord, and so she decides to become the Dark Lord. So I'm really intrigued by this. I've heard it's really funny and silly, kind of reminiscent of How to Kill a Farm Boy, or To Kill a Farm Boy. Right, yeah, How to Kill a Farm Boy. So I don't know, I'm really excited for this one. This has been on my most anticipated reads for a while, and I just haven't picked it up, as one does. This one is dependent on if I pick out the sequel book, because it's technically the third in the series, but I do want to read A Gathering of Shadows, which I currently have wrapped up, and A Conjuring of Light to round out this trilogy. I know there's technically another book, but Goodreads marks them as two separate series. The next one I have put on many a TBR and just have not read it. Oh, my bookmark's still in it. That is Soul of Stars. I made Benson read the first book. They didn't really enjoy it, but this is the second in a duology. I loved the first book. I'm nervous about this book, and that is why I keep putting it off and off for so long, but it has to come to a point where I either read it or unhaul it, and I don't want to unhaul it without reading it. The start of a series, Dark Moon, Shallow Sea. I probably should have organized this better, but I don't really, whatever. But basically all I know is about this is the goddess of the moon dies. And for some reason that super intrigued me. Also, two of my buzzwords, moon and sea. So I picked it up. I also really love this cover. So we're going to read it. We're going to try to read it. Then the next official end to a series, there is a side book of short stories that I do really want to pick up. That is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. This is the last book in the Scythe series. I loved the first two. I feel like this series gets better and better and better, and it took everything in me not to drop everything that I needed to read in the month that I read Thunderhead and just complete this series. I didn't end up doing that, but I need to. I want to. I really want to continue and figure out where we left our characters, because the way the second book ended, there's so much potential. There's so much room, and I'm hoping this series doesn't disappoint me, because a good ending, as we all know, can make or break a book or a series in general. The Archive of the Forgotten is the second book out of 3 in Hell's Library series. I read the first book twice. Really enjoyed it. Have yet to continue on. I mean, I did, again, start it. Didn't really love the trajectory it was going in. But I love the first book so much, there is promise of a continuation. And of course, I want to round out this trilogy, eventually and get the third and last book. The next one is technically a reread, but I do want to reread this one in order to continue on with the series. Also, I love these covers. And that is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I do want to read the Lunar Chronicles series because I've heard so many well-loved and good things. I also really enjoyed this the first time I read it. The only reason I want to reread it is A, it's been a few years, B, I listened to the audio the first time around, and was when I was first starting to get into audiobooks. So I'm sure there's a lot of details that I missed. Oh, wow. I never even noticed this art before. That's gorgeous. Anyway, I do want to reread this and collect all of these covers. Another one that I have picked up multiple times and just have not continued because I don't love it as much as I do the first book, but I do want to finish this again. It's been on many a TBR and another bookmark. That is Bloody Rose. Right now, Goodreads still lists it as a trilogy, but we have gotten no information on the third book, if it still actually exists. Right now, it's a duology. This is the sequel to Kings of the Wild, which is one of my top fantasy books that I have ever read. I love it so much with my whole heart. Basically, it follows these group of ex-mercenaries, and it's been a while since they have been in contact, but one of their daughters goes missing, and they all kind of get the band back together to rescue her, and this follows said daughter. Red Rising is the start of a very well-loved series. It is a little bit of a intimidating series because you either love it or you hate it, especially the first book. I have heard the first book is the weakest, and it gets significantly better from there. I believe we follow Darrow in a world where basically your worth is associated with a color. He is a red, which is the lowest point. And something happens with his wife where he decides enough is enough, and he tries to rise up in the ranks. The next one is a sequel, Song of the Dark Crystal. This is a prequel trilogy following obviously what happens before the movie The Dark Crystal. I really enjoyed the first book, and there are a bunch of illustrations in here that definitely pull the story together. Again, I find it really hard with prequels to kind of root for the characters because you already know what's going to happen, especially in this case. It is a little difficult to have any hope or build any suspense. Still, I'm very excited to read this. I am annoyed that there is a sticker that I can't remove though. And then we have the start and continuation of a series, and that is the Land of Ilion series. This one is The Dark Hills Divide, and this one is Beyond the Valley of Thorns. Benson said they read these books when they were younger and really enjoyed them. I don't really know what they're about, but we got them in the little free library, and they look really cool and atmospheric and fun. And then the final book in the Half Upon a Time series, Once Upon the End. I am really nervous and excited about this book. I have really enjoyed the first two. This one, there's a certain prophecy going on, and I am nervous to see how it'll end, which is why I have not picked it up and finished the trilogy yet. One that will probably take me a little while to read is River God. This is the first in the Ancient Egypt series. I believe this author is pretty well known for writing books about different cultures and different mythologies, and I really want to get to this. This is the book that we keep forgetting that we kind of own. Like, it is sitting on the shelf, but it's one that we don't really gravitate towards or pick up, and I really want to read it so that I can see if I want to make Benson read it. Where Dreams Descend is a circus book that I've really wanted to pick up for the longest time. It is the first in a, I believe it's just a duology. I've had such a hard time. I love the idea of circus books. I have had such a hard time reading circus books because of the Night Circus, because I love the Night Circus so much that nothing else really compares to it. So as much as I say, oh, I love circus books, circus is a buzzword. I just never pick them up because they intimidate me. And on the same vein, Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the third and final book in the Caraval series, though a Christmas novella actually just came out that I do want to read. So even when I finish this one, the series wouldn't technically be complete because I have not read that novella. Either way, I'm really excited about this. I have found the audiobook and a teeny tiny spoiler for, actually I'm not going to tell you which video, teeny tiny spoiler, I will be most definitely reading this one in March, but we're still going to try to get it on the March TBR. And then we have Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I'm pretty sure there is a sequel book to this and maybe a third book. I don't really know. But I've had this on my shelf for a while. It's another one that I keep kind of forgetting we own because I don't really gravitate towards it. I don't really think about it. And I want to give it a try because I forget it exists until it shows up on somebody's TBR. Again, I don't really know very much about this other than there's a coven of witches. Okay, I promise you, I will start this series in the spring because I have a whole video idea planned for it. And I know now there's a third book coming. Legends and Lattes. I promise you, I will read this book even if I don't get to do the video that I want to do it for. Because I gotta get there. It's gotta happen. Okay. And then we're continuing the series by reading the first book because I accidentally read the second book of this with some of my friends, and that is Between Commitment and Betrayal. This is technically the first book in this series. We read the second book on accident, which didn't really spoil much because it's a romance series. 9 times out of 10, if you're reading a romance series, the main couple is going to get together. So I was technically supposed to read this series in February, but I didn't. And I think I'll mention this in my March TBR as well. But I think what I'm going to do from now on is if I pull a book, like a series, out of the TBR jar and don't read it within the month, I'm just going to roll it over and we're going to start that in March. So even if I don't at least start this series, it's not going to roll over into March. We're just, yeah. Okay, from March on, if I pick out a series in a jar and don't finish the series, I'll just roll it over. Of course, there will be exceptions to that because there are some series that have a lot of books. like a lot of books, and I'm not going to read that many books in a month, at least not a whole series in a month. But for like trilogies and quartets, I'm going to just keep rolling it over until I finish it, because what's the point of, doing this jar if I read one of the books and just forget about it, right? That makes sense. But that's the Beyonders. I do have all 3 books now. I ordered the other 2 this month, and yeah, they are really chunky, but I think we're gonna have a great time with them. Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This will be the second Brandon Sanderson I read, because I did read Trust of the Emerald Sea and really loved it, and now I'm excited to read more from him, but I don't want to quite commit to the Mistborn series yet, for reasons I will mention later. But this one is a YA Brandon Sanderson, following Spensa, whose father is a coward, and because of that, she's kind of deemed unworthy, and she wants to prove everybody wrong. The Skyweaver. This is technically the last book in the Last Namsara series. I loved the first book, DNF'd the second book, and want to try to read this one. I don't know, I really do want to round out this series if I can and not call it a total waste, because I gave the first book 5 stars and was really disappointed in the trajectory it was taking with the second book. So I would really like to read this one, and hopefully 2 out of 3 will make me not look back on this series with disdain, I guess. The first book in the Discworld series, I think. Technically, you can read these books out of order, but if you know me, you know I like reading any series in order if I have that option. I believe we also own another one in the Discworld series that doesn't come until much later, but this is the first one. This is technically Benson's book, but I like to steal books from my fiance. The first 2 in a very well-loved trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. I can't remember if the newest book that came out is like a sequel or if it's just a novella. But An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night. I would really like to read these and see what all the hype is about, because a lot of people love these books. Dragons of Deceit is a rollover from Winter. This is the first in a spin-off of the Dragonlance series, but I also haven't read the Dragonlance series, so we'll see. Aeon is the first in a book series that Benson said that they really loved and has been wanting me to read for a while. All I know is there are dragons. Mr. Limoncello's Library is the first in a middle grade series, and I'm really excited for it. It involves a library. Why wouldn't it be? The Art of Prophecy. I need to read this. I need to read it as soon as possible. I need to get it on a TBR. I just look at this cover. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. The synopsis really intrigues me. Basically, we follow a world where our main character has been set up to fulfill this prophecy of killing the villain. And basically he has not trained properly for it, and someone else ends up swooping in and doing it for him, and we have to figure out where he goes from there. And Daughter of the Moon Goddess, again, it's first in a duology. Technically, there is a side book of side stories that I do want to read, much like Arc of the Scythe series. I'm really nervous to go into this one. I have heard there's a love triangle, but I also really do want to prioritize it and read it, because my friend said she hated the love triangle, and I want to see how I feel about it, because I don't usually love triangles, but there have been some exceptions. Actually, I usually hate love triangles. If I hear a book has a love triangle, I really don't want to read it or continue on with it. So it's... And then a loved series by me, technically a manga series, is Spy Family Volumes 11 and 12. Did you know Volume 13 came out and I still have not caught up on Volumes 11 and 12? I need to. I love this series so much. If you haven't heard me gush about it a million times, this series follows Twilight, who is a spy, and for his next mission he has to acquire a daughter and a wife, and he does so. However, he doesn't realize the daughter, Anya, is a telepath, and the wife, Yor, is an assassin. And really the only one that knows what's going on is Anya, because of course she's a telepath and she can read minds. And it's just, it leads to some hilarious situations. I've been getting Benson into watching the anime, and it has been a ton of fun and a great bonding experience because they finally see exactly what I love so much about this series. So I need to continue it. I actually do have a couple more that I forgot to grab. The next one being Valor, which is all the way on the other side, and I don't want to leave my little hobbit hole right now. But Valor is the sequel to Malice, which I need to read by, I believe it's the 9th of March in order to participate in the live show. And then the next one is actually a series, and it's a series of rereads, but I was looking at my shelf, trying to figure out other books, any last minute books for this video, and I saw it and like a big smile spread on my face because I really would like to reread, and for some reason that just got me in the mood to reread the Brown Sisters series, which if you don't know what this series is, it is a romance series, my favorite romance series of all time, where we follow, like, each book follows a sister and their love story, and these books are just the perfect combination of spicy and cute, and just you have yourself falling for each of these characters, and it's just the third one being my favorite, which I've read each of these books 3 times except for the last book, and that I've only read that twice. So I would have actually liked to read Act Your Age, Eve Brown a 3rd time before rereading the whole series, but it's fine. I just want to reread the whole series right now. Okay, and I think that is it. I think those are all of the books that I want to try to read in March through May, and we'll see how many of these I can actually get on a TBR. Not sure, but we'll find out. Let me know if there are any of these you think I should prioritize more than others, or what is your favorite series? Let me know that down in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like button if you like this, and subscribe if you want to see more from me, as well as Benson, who's a frequent member on this channel. I'll leave all those links down in the description box below, as well as links to my social media if you want to get any more updates from me. But until then, goodbye.